Our chapter basically reflects on the potential of human rights for social change and poverty reduction from the perspective of the city. Hans Otto was really saying now poverty is also is nowadays an urban phenomenon mostly. And so one of the things that we address or we were showing is that in the last years, there has an emergence of critique of rights. Critique of rights have been for many years around, but in the last 10 days, we've seen with full force these critiques. You've seen several books coming out criticizing the potential of rights for social change and really casting doubts about the potential of rights. You could see Samuel Moyn's book, Posner, Hubgood. There's plenty of books really making strong critiques on the potential of rights to challenge equality and poverty. And definitely these critiques have some purchase. As for instance, if we take into Moyn's concern, well, it is true, equality has not been eradicated from the world. And for that instance, poverty neither. But what we are trying to say in our paper, and we are far from optimists, is that that doesn't mean that there are some potential for human rights and for human rights to produce social change. And one of the biggest examples that we think is important is that human rights have been for many years a common language for social movements to raise their grievance and to challenge injustice and inequality. And in that instance, we show and take into account the protests that took place not only in Chile, as a matter of fact, in many cities of the world, and in Latin America was particularly relevant, using the language of rights. I don't know if I will show you one PowerPoint, but if you can see this PowerPoint, this is a PowerPoint of social protests taking place in Latin America, in Colombia. One is from Colombia, another is from Chile, from La Paz, and from Mexico. And this, of course, I didn't take photos of everything, but you can see they are really using the language of right. It was a protest about claiming the right to health, the right to food, the right to education, the right to social security. So I don't think it's a minor contribution of human rights, basically, to provide that language of rights. Whether this is a new thing, of course not. Social movements have used rights and challenged for rights and mobilized to defend rights for centuries and for many years. But it's interesting how, at least in this protest, in which we brought the example, how it was really a powerful tool for social movements. Of course, social movements use creative ways of how to challenge privilege and injustice, and this is one of them. What is to follow? Well, I think we also need to understand what is happening now. The question with COVID and social movement is an interesting one, because one of the impacts of COVID has been on mobilization and social movement, especially for the poor. So the poor, basically the way to mobilize and to have collective actions is to take out the streets. And so I've seen one article that says that there was a decrease between 2019, when we saw all these protests, and 2020, of course, in social protests outside the streets. I don't remember who the author was, but he was claiming that it was around 60%. But you've seen some other creative ways in which people are mobilizing, but for sure we have to ask what will go for social movements and for social protest and mobilization around rights with these new circumstances. Because you would see, for example, also governments that in the name of protecting health and protecting security, also restricting fundamental rights as to mobilize in order to advocate for rights. So yeah, we'll have to discuss it in the context of COVID.